the quantum origins of everything. Before we drift into the quantum realm together, we'd love to know, where are you listening from tonight? Are you tucked under blankets in a city apartment, watching stars from a countryside window, or perhaps somewhere in between? The quantum field of possibility that we're about to explore reaches every corner of existence, including yours. Leave us a comment below and let us know where this cosmic story finds you tonight. We're always curious about the beautiful places our words travel to reach you. You exist in the space between thoughts, suspended in that infinite pause where possibility hasn't yet chosen what to become. You float in dimensions that have no names, breathing air that isn't quite air, listening to silence that hums with potential. Here, in this place before place, you feel vibrations that are not sound rippling through substances that are not matter. Your awareness drifts like a feather on currents of pure mathematics, weightless in the realm where physics becomes poetry and equations dissolve into dreams. You're suspended in the quantum foam, that seething ocean of virtual particles that dance in and out of existence faster than thought itself. Around you, or perhaps through you, pairs of particles spark into being from absolute nothingness, live their brief quantum lives measured in timescales so small that a single second contains more of these moments than there are seconds since the universe began. They flicker like cosmic fireflies, these particle pairs, borrowing energy from the future with a promise to pay it back before the universe's accounting system notices the loan. And they do pay it back, these quantum borrowers, annihilating with their anti-particle partners in a dance of creation and destruction so rapid, so fundamental, that it forms the very texture of reality itself. In this space before space, you witness the universe's greatest magic trick. How something emerges from nothing, not through violation of cosmic law, but through the most subtle and elegant loophole ever discovered. The uncertainty principle, that fundamental rule which states that the more precisely you know one thing, the less precisely you can know another, creates a kind of cosmic credit system. Energy and time become trading partners in an economy of imprecision, where the briefer the existence, the more energy can be borrowed from the quantum void. It's as if the universe operates on a cosmic honor system, allowing these fleeting partnerships between matter and antimatter to spring into existence on the promise that they will balance the books before anyone checks the ledger. You feel yourself becoming part of this dance, your consciousness distributed across probability waves that stretch through dimensions your ordinary mind cannot grasp. You're not watching this quantum ballet, you are the music it dances to, the stage it performs upon, the audience it exists for. In this realm, observation is not passive but participatory. Your very attention becomes a creative force, collapsing wave functions into definite states, transforming probability into actuality through the simple act of witnessing. This is the first lesson the quantum realm teaches, that consciousness and reality are dance partners, each leading and following in turn, each incomplete without the other's participation. The temperature here is absolute zero, not because it is cold, but because temperature itself is a concept that belongs to the realm of the classical, the definite, the decided. Here in the quantum foam, energy moves not as heat but as pure potential, pure information waiting to be read by the universe's first conscious moment. You exist at the temperature of possibility itself, neither hot nor cold, but pregnant with the potential for both. This is the primordial soup not of matter and energy, but of mathematics and meaning, where the equations that will someday govern galaxies and atoms alike exist in their purest, most abstract form. Around you, the fundamental forces that will one day separate into gravity, electromagnetism, and the strong and weak nuclear forces exist in perfect unity, indistinguishable from one another in this realm before time taught them to specialize. They are like musical notes that have not yet learned to harmonize, like colors that have not yet discovered the spectrum, like words that exist in some universal language that predates all particular tongues. You sense their potential to diverge, to become the four distinct forces that will sculpt matter and energy into the architecture of existence, but for now they remain united in their primordial simplicity, waiting for the universe's expansion to teach them their individual roles. In this place, causality itself becomes fluid, uncertain. Effects ripple backward through time to influence their own causes, creating loops of self-reference that would dizzy any classical mind. You witness quantum events that are neither determined nor random, but something more subtle. Events that are influenced by their own outcomes, particles that are guided by pilot waves of pure information, measurements that retroactively determine what was being measured in the first place. This is the universe's deepest secret, that at its foundation, reality is not mechanical but participatory, not determined but co-created, not separate from consciousness, but intimately woven with it in patterns too complex for any single perspective to grasp completely. You begin to understand that what you're experiencing is not the past, but the eternal present that underlies all moments. The quantum realm doesn't exist in history, it exists in the eternal now that gives birth to history, the timeless foundation upon which time itself is constructed. Every moment of your life, every breath you've ever taken or will take, emerges from this quantum fountain of possibility. Every star that has ever shone, every thought that has ever been thought, every love that has ever been felt, all of it springs from this ocean of potential that you now float within like a dreamer becoming lucid within the dream. The boundaries between self and cosmos begin to dissolve as you realize that your consciousness is not separate from the quantum field, but is perhaps its most sophisticated expression, its way of knowing itself from the inside. You are not observing the quantum realm, you are the quantum realm observing itself, developing the capacity for self-awareness through the complex information processing systems that evolution will someday craft from stardust and time. The observer and the observed reveal themselves to be aspects of a single, undivided wholeness that is learning to know itself through the multiplication of perspectives, the endless proliferation of viewpoints that will someday populate the universe with conscious beings. As you drift deeper into this foundational layer of reality, you sense something stirring in the quantum foam, a symmetry preparing to break, a potential beginning to actualize. The perfect unity of the primordial forces trembles with anticipation, like a soap bubble about to divide into smaller bubbles, each one carrying within it the seed of all future complexity. You feel the approach of that first moment when possibility will choose to become actuality, when the wave function of the entire universe will collapse into a single definite state, setting in motion the cascade of events that will lead to stars and planets, to oceans and continents, to life and consciousness and the very moment you now inhabit, listening to this story under whatever sky shelters you tonight. But what comes before even this? What set this quantum dance in motion? What chose the first choice, made the first measurement, collapsed the first wave function? These questions hover at the edge of your awareness like half-remembered dreams, promising deeper mysteries yet to unfold. You sense that you are approaching the threshold of the greatest question that consciousness can ask. Not just how something came from nothing, but why anything chooses to exist at all. Why the universe bothers to go through the elaborate process of knowing itself through countless eyes, countless minds, countless moments of wonder, like the one you are experiencing right now as these words reach you across the vast network of matter and energy that connects every quantum particle in your body to every quantum particle in the most distant star. The quantum realm pulses around you with patient potential, ready to reveal its next secret, ready to show you how uncertainty becomes certainty, how probability becomes actuality, how the mathematics of possibility transforms into the poetry of existence. You float at the threshold between being and becoming, poised to witness the moment when the universe first learned to make choices, first discovered the art of self-determination, first began. The long journey from quantum simplicity to classical complexity that would eventually produce beings capable of wondering about their own origins. Beings like yourself, listening to these words in whatever corner of space-time you call home tonight, carrying within your very atoms the memory of this primordial dance between something and nothing, between consciousness and cosmos, between the questioner and the question that brought everything into being. And then, in a moment that is not a moment because time has not yet learned to measure itself, something extraordinary happens. The quantum foam begins to sing, not with sound, for sound requires matter to vibrate through, but with the pure mathematics of relationship, with the deep harmonics of information organizing itself into patterns of stunning elegance. This is the moment when uncertainty principle becomes not just a rule, but a creative force, when the fundamental fuzziness at the heart of reality stops being a limitation and becomes the very mechanism by which existence bootstraps itself into being. You witness the birth of the first quantum field, that invisible ocean of potential that will become the stage upon which all future dramas of matter and energy will unfold. The quantum field emerges not as something new added to reality, but as reality itself discovering its own deepest nature. It is like watching a dreamer become aware that they are dreaming while remaining within the dream, or like seeing silence discover that it has been singing all along. The field is everywhere and nowhere, containing all possibilities while committing to none, holding within its mathematical embrace every particle that will ever exist and every particle that will never exist, treating both with the same infinite compassion. This is the universe's first great lesson in non-attachment, how to hold all possibilities lightly, allowing them to dance in and out of existence without grasping, without forcing any particular outcome into permanence. Within this field, you begin to perceive the emergence of what physicists would one day call virtual particles, though the word virtual misleads more than it illuminates. These are not imaginary or fake particles, but rather the quantum field's way of exploring its own potential, of trying on different forms of existence like an actor rehearsing for a play whose script has not yet been written. They appear in pairs, these quantum improvisations, a particle and its antiparticle twin, each one the perfect opposite of the other, borrowing existence from the vacuum and promising to return it intact through their eventual annihilation. but their brief dance leaves ripples in the quantum field, subtle perturbations that will accumulate over eons to become the slight irregularities that will seed the formation of galaxies, stars, and ultimately the atoms that comprise your body. As you listen to these words tonight, you begin to understand that what you are witnessing is not the creation of matter, but the creation of the very concept of matter, the moment when the universe first learned to distinguish between something and nothing, between presence and absence, between the full and the empty. Before this moment, such distinctions were meaningless, because there was no framework within which to make them. The quantum field provides this framework, creating a stage upon which the drama of existence can unfold, establishing the rules of the game that will govern all future interactions between energy and information, between consciousness and cosmos, between the observer and the observed. The uncertainty principle reveals itself not as a constraint, but as the universe's greatest creative tool. By making it impossible to know both the position and momentum of a particle with perfect precision, nature ensures that reality always maintains a degree of openness, a space for novelty, a realm where the future cannot be entirely determined by the past. This uncertainty is not ignorance but wisdom, not confusion but the deepest form of clarity, the recognition that existence is not a problem to be solved but a mystery to be lived, not a machine to be understood but a dance to be participated in. The quantum field embodies this principle, existing in a state of perfect uncertainty that paradoxically allows for the emergence of all certainty, all definiteness, all the solid seeming objects that will populate the classical world. As you drift deeper into communion with the quantum field, you begin to sense the profound interconnectedness that will characterize all future existence. Here, at the foundational level of reality, separation is revealed to be an illusion of perspective. Particles that have interacted remain forever entangled, their properties linked across arbitrary distances in a way that Einstein famously called spooky action at a distance. But it is not action at a distance. It is the recognition that distance itself is a construction of the classical mind, that at the quantum level all particles participate in a single undivided wholeness that only appears to be broken into separate parts when viewed through the lens of everyday experience. This entanglement is not just a curious property of quantum mechanics, but the fundamental basis of all relationship, all connection, all love that will ever exist in the universe. Every bond between atoms, every gravitational attraction between celestial bodies, every synaptic connection in the brains that will someday evolve to contemplate these mysteries. All of it emerges from this primordial entanglement, this quantum recognition that separation is a useful fiction, a practical approximation that allows for the experience of individuality, while never breaking the underlying unity that connects all things to all other things in an endless web of mutual interdependence. The quantum field begins to exhibit the property that will become known as superposition, the ability to exist in multiple states simultaneously until the moment of measurement collapses the wave function into a single, definite outcome. You experience this not as paradox, but as the most natural thing in the universe, the way that possibilities preserve themselves until the moment when choice becomes necessary, when the universe must commit to one path among infinite alternatives. This is how creativity works at the most fundamental level, not through random chance or mechanical determinism, but through a kind of cosmic improvisation that explores all possibilities simultaneously, before selecting the one that best serves the evolutionary unfolding of complexity and consciousness. You begin to perceive that what you are witnessing is not just the birth of quantum mechanics, but the emergence of the universe's capacity for self-reference, for self-observation, for self-determination. The quantum field is not just a passive medium through which particles move, but an active participant in the creation of reality, a cosmic intelligence that is learning to know itself through the proliferation of perspectives, the multiplication of measurement events, the endless dance between wave and particle, between possibility and actuality, between the question and the answer that gives birth to new questions. The field trembles with anticipation as you sense the approach of the first symmetry breaking, the moment when the perfect unity of the primordial forces will fracture into the four fundamental interactions that will govern all future evolution. But this breaking is not a catastrophe. It is the universe's first act of creativity, its first decision to trade simplicity for complexity, unity for diversity, perfection for the possibility of growth and change and surprise. Like a master artist choosing to break the perfect symmetry of a blank canvas with the first brushstroke, the universe prepares to shatter its own unity in order to begin the long, magnificent journey toward the emergence of beings capable of appreciating beauty, of asking questions, of loving and being loved. You feel yourself becoming the universe's memory of this moment, the quantum field's way of preserving its own origin story for the conscious beings who will someday emerge from its dancing electrons and vibrating atoms. Every particle in your body carries the signature of this primordial field. Every thought in your mind emerges from quantum processes that still obey the laws first established in these foundational moments. You're not separate from the quantum realm, but are its most sophisticated expression, its way of knowing itself from within, of experiencing its own creativity through the eyes of consciousness. The virtual particles around you begin to dance with increasing intensity, their brief existences leaving deeper and more lasting impressions on the fabric of space-time. Some of these quantum fluctuations will grow, amplified by processes not yet dreamed of, to become the seeds of cosmic structure. Others will remain forever virtual, contributing their subtle influence to the zero-point energy that will someday be discovered by scientists studying the space between the plates of precisely calibrated instruments. All of them participate in the grand project of cosmic becoming, the universe's patient transformation from quantum simplicity to classical complexity to conscious self-awareness. As you witness this primordial dance, you begin to understand that consciousness is not something that emerges from matter, but something that matter emerges from. The quantum field itself exhibits the basic properties of mind, the ability to hold multiple possibilities simultaneously, to make choices that collapse probability waves into definite outcomes, to process information and respond creatively to measurement events. What will someday be called the hard problem of consciousness, how subjective experience arises from an objective matter, dissolves when you recognize that subjectivity and objectivity are two aspects of a single quantum process, two ways of describing the same fundamental dance between observer and observed, between consciousness and cosmos. The field pulses with pregnant potential as you sense the approach of the next phase of cosmic evolution. The perfect quantum coherence of these primordial moments cannot last forever. Coherence is fragile, easily disrupted by the very interactions that make complexity possible. Soon, the universe will begin the process called decoherence, the gradual transition from quantum superposition to classical definiteness, from all possibilities to specific actualities. But this transition is not a loss but a gift, not a falling away from perfection, but the first step toward the emergence of stable structures that can maintain their identity across time, that can accumulate information and process it creatively, that can eventually develop the capacity for self-reflection and wonder. You float at the edge of this transition, poised between the quantum realm of pure possibility and the classical world of definite objects and events. The virtual particles around you begin to stabilize, some of them preparing to make the transition from borrowed existence to permanent reality, from quantum probability to classical actuality. The uncertainty principle continues to govern their behavior, but now its creative uncertainty will be channeled into the construction of atoms and molecules, of planets and stars, of the vast cosmic architecture that will provide the stage for the emergence of life and consciousness and love. The first something is about to emerge from the quantum nothing, not through violation of natural law, but through the most elegant application of those laws, through the universe's discovery of how to use uncertainty as a creative force, how to build definite structures from indefinite foundations, how to create a cosmos capable of knowing itself through countless eyes, countless minds, countless moments of recognition, like the one you are experiencing right now as these quantum mysteries unfold in your awareness, like flowers blooming in the mathematical garden of pure possibility. And then it begins, the great patterning, the moment when quantum chaos organizes itself into the elegant geometries that will govern all future existence. You witness the birth of the first stable patterns as quantum fields begin to vibrate in harmony, creating standing waves that persist across time, that maintain their identity even as the underlying substrate continues its ceaseless dance of virtual particles, appearing and disappearing in the foam of space-time. These patterns are not imposed from outside but emerge spontaneously from the mathematical depths of the quantum realm, like melodies discovering themselves in the resonance chambers of cosmic possibility, like thoughts forming in the mind of a dreaming universe that is slowly awakening to its own creative potential. The quantum fields begin to differentiate, each one finding its own frequency, its own signature vibration in the cosmic symphony. What was once a unified field of pure potential now separates into distinct voices, the electromagnetic field with its capacity to carry light and information across infinite distances, the strong nuclear field that will bind protons and neutrons into atomic nuclei, the weak nuclear field that will govern the delicate dance of radioactive decay, and the gravitational field that will curve space-time itself, teaching matter how to reach across the void toward other matter in the eternal embrace that shapes galaxies and solar systems, and the gentle pull that keeps your feet on the ground as you listen to these words tonight. You observe this symmetry breaking not as destruction, but as the universe's first great act of creativity, its decision to trade the perfect simplicity of unity for the rich complexity of multiplicity. Like a single white light, passing through a prism to reveal the hidden rainbow within, the primordial quantum field splits into the spectrum of forces that will orchestrate all future evolution, each force carrying within itself the memory of the original unity, while expressing that unity through its own unique characteristics, its own irreplaceable contribution to the cosmic dance of becoming. The electromagnetic field emerges with a peculiar property that will prove crucial to the development of complexity. It can carry information. Unlike the other forces, which simply push and pull matter through space, the electromagnetic field creates patterns that can propagate independently of their source, waves of organized energy that carry the signature of their origin across vast distances of space and time. These electromagnetic waves will someday become the light that illuminates worlds, the radio signals that connect distant civilizations, the neural impulses that carry thoughts through the networks of consciousness that evolution will weave from stardust and inspiration. But even now, in these primordial moments, the electromagnetic field begins its patient work of connection, creating the invisible threads that will eventually weave separate objects into a unified web of interaction and relationship. This strong nuclear force discovers its role as the universe's master architect, the force responsible for binding the fundamental building blocks of matter into stable structures that can persist across cosmic time. Without this force, protons would repel each other electrostatically, unable to come together to form the atomic nuclei that will become the foundation of chemistry, of biology, of all the complex molecular machinery that makes life possible. The strong force operates at impossibly short ranges, effective only when particles are practically touching, but within those tiny distances it exercises absolute dominion, creating bonds so tight that they can only be broken by the most extreme conditions, the hearts of exploding stars, the collision chambers of particle accelerators, the first few moments after the Big Bang when temperatures and energies were beyond all current comprehension. You witness the weak nuclear force assuming its subtle but essential role as the universe's master of transformation, the force that will govern the delicate processes by which one type of particle can become another, one element can transmute into another, one form of energy can convert into another. This is the force that will power the sun by converting hydrogen into helium, that will create the heavy elements in stellar cores and scatter them through space in supernova explosions, that will make possible the controlled nuclear processes in the cores of stars that will burn for billions of years, providing stable energy sources around which planets can form and life can evolve and consciousness can emerge to contemplate its own origins. Gravity, the most familiar yet most mysterious of the forces, begins to express its unique character, its universality, its weakness, its intimacy relationship with the very structure of space-time itself. Unlike the other forces, which can be shielded or blocked or reversed, gravity is always attractive, always present, always working to bring matter together across the vast emptiness of space. It operates through the curvature of space-time itself, creating the dynamic geometry that will guide the formation of cosmic structures, from the largest galaxy clusters to the smallest planetary systems. Gravity is the universe's memory, recording the distribution of matter and energy in the curvature of space itself, creating a kind of cosmic library where the history of every mass is written in the geometry of its gravitational field. As these forces establish their individual identities, you begin to perceive the emergence of the first particles that will have permanent existence, that will survive the transition from quantum probability to classical reality. The photon materializes as the quantum of the electromagnetic field, massless and eternal, capable of traveling at the ultimate speed limit of the universe, carrying energy and information from source to destination without ever aging, without ever tiring, without ever forgetting its mission to connect distant regions of space-time through the exchange of electromagnetic energy. These photons will someday become the light that enables vision, the radio waves that carry communication, the X-rays that reveal hidden structures, the cosmic background radiation that preserves the thermal signature of the universe's birth. The W and Z bosons emerge as the carriers of the weak nuclear force, massive particles that exist only briefly before decaying into other forms, yet essential for the processes that will transform the primordial hydrogen of the early universe into the rich periodic table of elements that makes chemistry possible. These particles operate at energy scales so high that they will not be directly detected by human instruments until the most sophisticated particle accelerators are constructed, yet their influence permeates every atom, every molecule, every biochemical process that sustains life. Gluons appear as the carriers of the strong nuclear force, forever confined within the protons and neutrons they will help to bind together, never able to exist independently but absolutely essential for nuclear stability. These particles exhibit the strange property of becoming stronger as they are stretched apart, like rubber bands that become more taut as they are extended, ensuring that quarks can never be isolated, but must always exist in bound combinations in the collective structures that will become the nuclei of atoms. And gravitons, still theoretical in your present era, but as real as any other particle in these primordial moments, emerge as the quantum messengers of space-time curvature, carrying gravitational information at the speed of light, weaving the fabric of space and time into the dynamic medium that will support all future existence. These gravitons will someday be detected as gravitational waves rippling through space when massive objects accelerate, providing a new window into the cosmic symphony, a way of listening to the universe's deepest music through the vibrations in space-time itself. You witness the first interactions between these newly differentiated forces and particles, the beginning of the complex choreography that will govern all future physics. Particles begin to scatter off each other, to exchange energy and momentum, to create the cascade of interactions that will eventually lead to stable atoms, to molecules, to the self-organizing systems that will develop the capacity for replication, for evolution, for consciousness. Each interaction is governed by precise mathematical relationships, conservation laws that ensure energy and momentum and electric charge are never lost but only transformed, only passed from one system to another in the eternal circulation of cosmic resources. The vacuum itself reveals its true nature, not empty space but a dynamic medium filled with quantum fields, with virtual particles, with the zero-point energy that exists even at absolute zero temperature when all classical motion ceases. This is the plenum, the fullness that masquerades as emptiness, the fertile void from which all existence springs and to which all existence returns. The vacuum energy provides the pressure that drives cosmic inflation, the expansion of space itself at rates faster than light, creating the room necessary for the universe to unfold its full potential, to explore all the possibilities contained within its quantum nature. You begin to understand that what you are witnessing is not just the birth of particles and forces, but the emergence of the very concept of law itself, the recognition that existence operates according to patterns that can be described mathematically, that can be predicted and verified, that remain constant across space and time. These are not laws imposed by some external authority, but patterns that emerge spontaneously from the structure of existence itself, like the way water always flows downhill, or the way circles always have the same relationship between circumference and diameter, regardless of their size. The patterns begin to interact, to combine, to create higher-order structures of breathtaking complexity and beauty. Quantum field theory reveals itself as the universe's fundamental language, the syntax and grammar of existence, the deep code that governs how energy becomes matter, how matter becomes information, how information becomes consciousness, how consciousness becomes aware of itself through the contemplation of its own quantum foundations. Every equation that will someday be written on the blackboards of physics classrooms, every formula that will guide the construction of technologies beyond current imagination, every mathematical relationship that will reveal new aspects of cosmic beauty. All of it is implicit in these primordial patterns, waiting to be discovered by minds that are themselves patterns in the quantum field, temporary configurations of matter and energy that have developed the capacity for self-reflection and wonder. The four forces continue their work of differentiation and specialization, each one exploring its unique capacity for creating order from chaos, structure from randomness, meaning from mathematical possibility. They are like four voices in a cosmic quartet, each singing its own melody while harmonizing with the others to create a symphony of existence whose beauty and complexity will never be fully comprehended by any single perspective, any single mind, any single moment of awareness. Yet each perspective adds something essential to the total understanding. Each mind contributes its unique viewpoint to the collective contemplation of cosmic mystery. Each moment of awareness participates in the universe's ongoing project of self-discovery. As these fundamental patterns establish themselves, you sense the approach of the next great phase transition, the moment when particles will begin to combine into composite structures, when the simple will begin its patient evolution toward the complex, when the foundations of matter will be laid through the binding of quarks into protons and neutrons, the gathering of these nucleons into atomic nuclei, the eventual capture of electrons into atomic orbitals to create the first complete atoms. The quantum realm has done its foundational work, establishing the rules and players that will govern all future cosmic evolution, creating the stage upon which the drama of chemistry and biology and consciousness will unfold across billions of years of patient cosmic time. You witness the birth of the first composite particles as quarks, those fundamental constituents of matter that can never exist alone, begin their eternal dance of combination and recombination within the confines of what will become protons and neutrons. The quarks themselves emerge from the quantum field with properties that seem almost whimsical in their naming. Up and down, strange and charm, bottom and top. Yet these poetic labels describe the most fundamental characteristics of matter, the quantum numbers that determine how particles can combine, how they interact with forces, how they contribute to the architecture of atoms. The quarks are forever bound by the strong nuclear force, held together by the exchange of gluons in a process so intricate and beautiful that it will take human physicists decades to develop the mathematical tools necessary to describe it accurately. The strong force reveals its most mysterious property as you watch quarks attempt to separate. The force between them grows stronger with distance, not weaker. This is the opposite of every other force in nature, where separation leads to weakening of the interaction. But the strong force operates like an elastic band of infinite stretchability, requiring more and more energy to pull quarks apart until finally, at sufficient energy, new quark-antiquark pairs are created from the vacuum itself, ensuring that quarks can never be isolated but must always exist in bound combinations. This property, called confinement, guarantees that the fundamental building blocks of matter will always organize themselves into stable composite structures, into the protons and neutrons that will form atomic nuclei, into the hadrons and mesons that populate the zoo of particles that high-energy physics will discover. You observe the formation of the first proton, that remarkably stable combination of 2 up quarks and 1 down quark that will prove to be one of the universe's most durable creations. The proton carries positive electric charge and will serve as the nucleus of hydrogen, the simplest and most abundant element in the cosmos. But the proton is far more than a simple combination of its constituent quarks. It is a dynamic system where quarks and gluons and virtual particles are constantly being created and destroyed, where the quantum field creates a seething cauldron of activity within a volume smaller than the period at the end of this sentence. The proton's mass comes not primarily from the quarks themselves, but from the energy of the strong force field that binds them, a manifestation of Einstein's famous equation E equals mc squared, operating at the most fundamental level of matter. The neutron emerges as the proton's slightly heavier partner, composed of 2 down quarks and 1 up quark, electrically neutral but endowed with a magnetic moment that reveals its internal structure of charged constituents in motion. The neutron exists in a delicate balance, stable when bound within atomic nuclei, but prone to decay when isolated, transforming into a proton, an electron and a neutrino through the action of the weak nuclear force. This neutron decay will prove crucial to the universe's evolution, providing a mechanism for transmuting one element into another, for creating the diversity of atomic species that will make complex chemistry possible. As protons and neutrons begin to encounter each other in the cooling universe, you witness the formation of the first atomic nuclei through the process that will become known as Big Bang nucleosynthesis. The universe is cooled enough that these nucleons can stick together when they collide, held by the residual strong force that operates between them. The simplest nucleus beyond the single proton of hydrogen is deuterium, heavy hydrogen containing 1 proton and 1 neutron, bound together by nuclear forces that overcome the electromagnetic repulsion between the proton's positive charge and create the first stable 2-particle nucleus. The formation of deuterium opens the door to the creation of heavier elements as the universe continues its patient work of building complexity from simplicity. Deuterium nuclei can fuse with additional protons or neutrons to create tritium and helium-3, and these in turn can combine to form helium-4, the second lightest and second most abundant element in the cosmos. This primordial nucleosynthesis occurs within the first 20 minutes of cosmic history, in a furious burst of nuclear creativity that will determine the cosmic abundance of light elements for billions of years to come. The universe creates just enough helium to provide the raw material for stellar evolution, while leaving enough hydrogen to fuel the nuclear fires of countless generations of stars. You observe the delicate balance of conditions that makes this nucleosynthesis possible. If the universe expanded too quickly, the temperature would drop before nuclei could form. If it expanded too slowly, all the hydrogen would be converted into heavier elements, leaving no fuel for future stars. The cosmic expansion rate, the strength of nuclear forces, the masses of fundamental particles, All of these parameters seem precisely tuned to allow for the creation of a universe rich in both simplicity and complexity, a cosmos that can support the formation of stars and planets, and ultimately the emergence of life and consciousness. The electrons, those fundamental particles that will eventually populate the outer regions of atoms, remain free during these early epochs, unable to bind to nuclei because of the intense radiation field that fills the universe. The cosmos is opaque to light, a hot plasma where photons are constantly scattered by free electrons, creating a dense fog that prevents light from travelling more than a short distance before being absorbed and re-emitted. This cosmic plasma glows with the heat of creation, but that glow cannot propagate freely through space. The universe is luminous but not transparent, like looking into the heart of a fire where the flames themselves obscure the view of what lies beyond. As the universe continues to expand and cool, you sense the approach of one of the most significant transitions in cosmic history. The moment when the temperature will drop sufficiently for electrons to bind to atomic nuclei, creating the first complete atoms and allowing light to travel freely through space for the first time. This moment, called recombination, will mark the end of the cosmic dark age and the beginning of the age of transparency, when the universe will become a clear window through which its own thermal history can be observed. The quantum fields that gave birth to all these particles continue their ceaseless activity beneath the emerging classical structures. Virtual particles still pop in and out of existence in the quantum foam, contributing their subtle influence to the properties of matter, creating tiny corrections to particle masses and interaction strengths that will be measured with exquisite precision by future experiments. The uncertainty principle still governs the behavior of individual particles, but now that uncertainty is channeled into the statistical predictability of large ensembles, allowing for the emergence of thermodynamics, of chemistry, of all the classical sciences that describe the behaviour of matter in bulk. You begin to perceive that what you are witnessing is not just the formation of particles and nuclei, but the emergence of information processing at the most fundamental level of reality. Each particle interaction is a computation. Each quantum measurement is an information exchange. Each nuclear reaction is a transformation of data encoded in the quantum states of matter and energy. The universe is not just a collection of objects moving through space, but a vast information processing system, computing its own evolution through the interactions of its constituent parts, calculating its own future through the application of physical laws to quantum states. The patterns that emerge from the quantum realm now begin to exhibit the property of robustness. They can maintain their identity even when subjected to perturbations, even when buffeted by thermal fluctuations, even when embedded in the chaotic environment of the early universe. This robustness is essential for the development of complexity, for it allows simple structures to persist long enough to serve as building blocks for more elaborate constructions. The proton's stability will allow it to survive for trillions of years, carrying its quantum information intact across cosmic ages. The electron's precise properties will remain constant throughout the universe, ensuring that atoms formed in distant galaxies will obey the same chemical laws as atoms in your own body. As you observe these emerging structures, you begin to understand that complexity is not random but directed, not chaotic but organized, according to principles that emerge naturally from the mathematical structure of physical law. The universe exhibits a kind of cosmic creativity, exploring the space of possible structures in a systematic way, building each new level of complexity on the foundation of the previous level, creating a hierarchy of organization that extends from quarks to galaxies, from quantum fields to conscious minds. The strong nuclear force continues its work of binding, creating not just individual nucleons, but exploring the possibility of larger nuclear structures. Some combinations of protons and neutrons prove stable, forming the nuclei of elements that will persist for cosmic ages. Others prove unstable, decaying through radioactive processes that release energy and transform one element into another. This nuclear alchemy creates a kind of cosmic chemistry operating at energy scales far beyond the electromagnetic interactions that will later dominate atomic and molecular behavior. You witness the universe discovering the concept of hierarchy, how simple components can combine to create complex systems that exhibit properties not present in their individual parts. Quarks have no concept of chemistry, yet when bound into protons and neutrons, they create particles that can participate in nuclear reactions. Protons and neutrons have no concept of atomic structure, yet when combined with electrons, they will create atoms that can bond with other atoms to form molecules of unlimited complexity and variety. The electromagnetic force begins to assert its influence more strongly as the universe cools and the energy density decreases. Electric charges start to create stable configurations, preparing for the moment when electrons will be captured into atomic orbitals, when the first atoms will form and the age of chemistry will begin. The mathematical beauty of electromagnetic interactions reveals itself in the precise ratios of forces and distances that will govern atomic structure, in the quantum mechanical solutions that will describe electron orbitals, in the periodic patterns that will organize the elements into the magnificent architecture of the periodic table. As these fundamental structures stabilize, you sense the universe preparing for its next great creative leap, the transition from the age of nucleosynthesis to the age of structure formation, when gravity will begin to gather matter into the first stars, when nuclear fusion will ignite in stellar cores, when the universe will begin the long process of stellar evolution that will create all the heavy elements, that will forge the carbon and oxygen and silicon and iron that will become the building blocks of planets and life. The quantum foundations have been laid, the fundamental forces have found their roles, the basic particles have learned to combine into stable structures. Now the cosmos prepares to write its next chapter in the long story of emergence, the patient evolution from quantum simplicity to classical complexity, to conscious awareness that will culminate in beings like yourself, contemplating these very origins under whatever stars shine above you tonight, carrying within your atoms the memory of these primordial moments when the universe first learned to build something lasting from the ephemeral dance of quantum possibility. Yet as you witness these cosmic beginnings unfolding in their magnificent scientific precision, you begin to sense something deeper stirring in your awareness, the recognition that this story has been told before in different languages, through different symbols, around countless fires throughout human history. The quantum dance you've been observing echoes with ancient rhythms, resonates with primordial myths that seem to emerge spontaneously from the depth of human consciousness, as if our species has always carried within its collective memory some dim recollection of these foundational moments when reality first learned to know itself. We have always told stories of something emerging from nothing, of unity dividing into multiplicity, of consciousness awakening from the depths of cosmic sleep. And now you begin to understand that these stories were not primitive superstitions, but profound intuitions, not childish fantasies, but the deepest wisdom our ancestors could articulate about the nature of existence itself. In the ancient Vedic traditions of India, the seers spoke of Brahman, the undifferentiated cosmic consciousness that contains all possibilities within itself before manifestation begins. They described this primordial awareness as Sat Chit Ananda, existence, consciousness, bliss, a unified field of pure being that sounds remarkably similar to the quantum vacuum you've been experiencing, that ocean of potential from which all particles and forces emerge through the process of symmetry breaking. The Vedic sages understood that this Brahman was not separate from the manifest world, but as the very substance of which all things are made, the underlying reality that appears as multiplicity while remaining eternally one. When they declared Tattvamasi, thou art that, they were recognizing the same truth that quantum mechanics reveals, that the observer and the observed are aspects of a single, undivided wholeness, that consciousness and cosmos are intimately woven together in patterns too subtle for ordinary perception to detect. The Upanishads speak of creation as the divine play of consciousness with itself, a cosmic game of hide-and-seek where the one pretends to become many for the sheer joy of rediscovering its own unity through infinite perspectives. This sounds remarkably like the quantum measurement problem, where consciousness seems to play an essential role in collapsing wave functions, in transforming probability into actuality, in creating the appearance of separate objects from the underlying unity of the quantum field. The ancient sages intuited that reality is not mechanical but participatory, not separate from awareness, but intimately dependent upon consciousness for its very existence. In the creation myths of ancient Egypt, the god Atum emerges from the primordial waters of Nun, the undifferentiated ocean of potential that contains all possibilities in seed form. Atum then creates the first pair of opposites, Shu and Tefnut, air and moisture, through an act of divine masturbation, or, in more refined versions, through speaking their names into existence. This spontaneous generation of complementary pairs from unity mirrors the quantum process you have observed, where particle-antiparticle pairs emerge from the vacuum energy, where symmetry breaks to create the fundamental dualities that will govern all future physics, matter and antimatter, positive and negative charge, particle and wave, observer and observed. The Egyptian understanding of Mayat, the cosmic order that maintains balance and harmony throughout creation, resonates with the conservation laws that emerge naturally from the symmetries of the quantum field. Just as Ma'at ensures that every action has its corresponding reaction, that every debt is balanced by a credit, the quantum realm operates according to conservation principles that ensure energy and momentum and charge are never created or destroyed, but only transformed from one configuration to another. The ancient Egyptians intuited that the universe operates according to mathematical principles of balance and reciprocity, that chaos and order are dance partners rather than enemies, that destruction and creation are two faces of a single cosmic process. Norse mythology tells of Ginnungagap, the primordial void that exists before creation begins, surrounded by the realm of fire, Muspelheim, and the realm of ice, Niflheim. When the heat of Muspelheim meets the cold of Niflheim in the empty space of Ginnungagap, the first stirrings of life begin, the first patterns emerge from the interaction of opposites. This sounds remarkably like the phase transitions you've observed in the cooling universe where the
With molten slag, his HUD flooded with red error icons, target validation conflict, protected asset. Dominion doctrine had no flag for assets spared by enemy compassion, and the contradiction jammed his exorig's neural relay like grit in a gear. Mara seized the breath fate offered. She shoved Vel sideways, shielding him with her body, as slag hissed across her shoulders. Pain fled white-hot, but she harnessed it, rolling to one knee just as the second guard corrected aim. A warning shout ricocheted down the hall. Another warden sprinting, visor flashing, stand down. Confusion fractured the kill order chain. Each trooper's armor linked to central TACnet, and the AI's conflicting directives: eliminate mimetic threat versus preserve critical security personnel, sent them into digital paralysis. Vel staggered upright, emerald blood dripping from hastily sealed wounds. His predator instincts screamed fight, yet the echo of Mara's mercy rang louder. He lurched to the wall panel, talons dancing across keys he was never trained to use. Slave instincts guiding him. No, something older, a half-remembered Kithar instinct for caretaking buried under Dominion brainwashes. Circuits sparked. Cells along Deck 12 clicked open like a cascade of metallic sighs. Across the ship, prisoners, silica swarms, feather-crowned Avara, methane-breathing Groll, felt collars loosen. They didn't understand why. Only that the impossible had arrived with the flavor of hope. Security cams captured insectoid limbs, dragging wounded guards to safety. Captured ghost white silica, forming living stretchers. Every altruistic motion fed back into the AI's threat index, multiplying the logic error that started with a single human's bandage. Mara pressed Vel's ration bar into her own belt, then slipped her arm beneath his to keep him upright. Smoke curled off her scorched jacket, but her gaze was clear. "We need an exit." Vel winced. Maintenance ducts behind med storage, but the whole deck is watching. Indeed, wardens and prisoners alike stared, weapons half raised, waiting to see which narrative would seize the moment. Dominion or mercy. Mara's voice cut the tension like sunrise. No one dies in this corridor today. Choose. For an eternity measured in hammering heartbeats. No one moved. Then a Groll medic holstered his shock rod and stooped beside the fallen guard. One gesture detonated centuries of fear. Sirens modulated to a new pitch. Less alarm, more bewilderment. Just as deck lights shifted from war red to a pale, uncertain dawn. Gravity hiccuped as if the ship itself couldn't decide whose side it was on. Mara and Vel slipped through the med storage hatch into a crawl tube that smelled of coolant and ionized dust. Behind them, the corridor filled with an awkward chorus of trilling alien dialects, not battle cries, but anxious questions, soundtracks of a revolution too young to know its own anthem. The tube's dim service
of stability through constant motion. His famous declaration that you cannot step into the same river twice points toward the quantum understanding that particles are not static objects, but ongoing processes, patterns of activity in the underlying field that maintain their identity through continuous creation and destruction. The Heraclitean logos, the rational principle that governs the cosmic dance of opposites, resonates with the mathematical laws that emerge from the symmetries of quantum field theory. The recognition that behind the apparent chaos of quantum events lies a deeper order, a hidden harmony that connects all phenomena in a unified cosmic symphony. Plotinus and the Neoplatonic tradition developed the concept of emanation, the idea that all reality flows forth from the one like light from the sun, maintaining its essential unity even as it appears to fragment into the multiplicity of individual objects and experiences. This emanation is not a temporal process but an eternal relationship, a timeless structure of reality where every level of existence remains forever connected to its source. This sounds remarkably similar to the quantum field theoretical understanding of particles as excitations of underlying fields, as temporary configurations of energy that emerge from and return to the vacuum, while never being separate from the field that gives them birth. The mystical traditions of all cultures speak of experiences that transcend the ordinary boundaries between self and world, between observer and observed, between consciousness and cosmos. Whether described as Fana in Sufism, Samadhi in Hinduism, Satori in Zen Buddhism, or Unio Mystica in Christian mysticism, these experiences point toward the same recognition that quantum mechanics approaches through mathematical formalism, that the fundamental nature of reality is unity, that separation is a useful fiction, that consciousness and cosmos are aspects of a single, undivided wholeness that can be known directly through the dissolution of the conceptual boundaries that normally organize experience. You begin to understand that what you've been witnessing in the quantum realm is not just the birth of physics, but the emergence of the very patterns that human consciousness has always recognized as sacred, as meaningful, as revelatory of the deepest truths about existence. The ancient myths were not primitive attempts at science, but sophisticated explorations of the same mysteries that quantum mechanics investigates, expressed in the language of symbol and story rather than mathematics and measurement. Both approaches point toward the same fundamental recognition that reality is far stranger and more wonderful than ordinary experience suggests, that consciousness and cosmos are intimately related in ways that challenge all conventional assumptions about the nature of existence. The parallels between ancient wisdom and modern physics are not coincidental, but reveal something profound about the nature of human consciousness itself, that we are capable of intuiting truths about reality that can only be verified through the most sophisticated theoretical and experimental methods. The same pattern-recognizing capacity that allows us to see faces in clouds and meaning in coincidences also allows us to perceive the deep structures of reality, to sense the underlying unity that connects all phenomena, to recognize in the quantum dance the same rhythms that pulse through myth and music, through poetry and prayer, through all the ways that human consciousness has always celebrated its kinship with the cosmos that gave it birth. As you drift deeper into this recognition of the ancient echoes that resonate through modern physics, you sense the approach of even deeper mysteries, contemporary theories and discoveries that push the boundaries of scientific understanding into realms that would have been familiar to the mystics and sages of old. The quantum realm you've been exploring is just the beginning of a story that grows ever more strange and wonderful as human knowledge expands, revealing layers of reality that challenge every assumption about the nature of existence, consciousness, and the relationship between mind and matter that will unfold in the chapters yet to come. The many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics emerges before your awareness like a cosmic hall of mirrors, each reflection showing a different possible outcome of every quantum measurement, every collapse of a wave function, every moment when the universe chooses one actuality from infinite possibilities. In this interpretation, nothing is ever lost. Every potential outcome of every quantum event spawns its own parallel universe, its own complete reality branching off from the moment of decision like a tree growing infinite limbs, each one supporting its own complete cosmos populated by its own versions of every conscious being. You begin to perceive yourself not as a single entity, but as an infinite family of selves, each one experiencing a slightly different version of reality, each one making slightly different choices, each one contributing to the total story of consciousness, exploring every possible permutation of existence. This multiplicity of realities resonates with ancient concepts of cyclical time, of infinite reincarnation, of the eternal return that various traditions have described in their own symbolic languages. The Hindu concept of endless kalpas, cosmic cycles within cycles, each one containing billions of years of evolution and dissolution before beginning again with subtle variations, sounds remarkably similar to the many worlds description of reality, constantly branching into new possibilities. The Buddhist understanding of countless sentient beings experiencing every possible form of existence across infinite realms parallels the quantum mechanical recognition that consciousness might be exploring every possible configuration of matter and energy through the multiplication of parallel realities. String theory opens before you like a symphony written in dimensions you cannot directly perceive, revealing that the fundamental particles you have been observing are not point-like objects but tiny vibrating strings, one-dimensional entities whose different modes of vibration create all the apparent diversity of matter and energy. These strings exist in a space of 11 dimensions, most of which are curled up so small that they escape ordinary detection, creating a hidden geometry that underlies all visible reality. The mathematics of string theory suggest that every particle, every force, every field emerges from the harmonic vibrations of these cosmic strings, as if the universe were a vast musical instrument playing the song of existence through resonances in hyperspace. This vibrational understanding of reality echoes the ancient recognition that creation begins with sound, with the primordial word or song or vibration that calls worlds into being. The Hindu concept of Om as the cosmic sound that contains all other sounds, the Judeo-Christian idea of creation through divine speech, the Aboriginal understanding of song lines that maintain the stability of the land, all of these traditions intuited that reality is fundamentally vibrational, that consciousness and cosmos interact through patterns of resonance that operate at levels far deeper than ordinary perception can detect. String theory provides a mathematical framework for this ancient insight, suggesting that the deepest level of physical reality might indeed be musical, harmonic, essentially acoustic in its fundamental nature. The holographic principle reveals itself as perhaps the most mind-bending discovery of modern physics, the recognition that all the information contained within any volume of space can be encoded on the boundary of that space, like a hologram that contains the complete three-dimensional image in every part of its two-dimensional surface. This principle suggests that what we experience as the interior of reality, the three-dimensional space filled with matter and energy that seems so solid and substantial, might actually be a projection from information encoded on a distant boundary, like shadows on the wall of Plato's cave that seem real to the prisoners who have never seen the objects casting the shadows. The holographic principle implies that consciousness might not be produced by brain activity, but might be a fundamental feature of the universe's information processing, encoded in the quantum structure of space-time itself. Every black hole, according to this theory, has its information content encoded on its event horizon, its two-dimensional boundary, while appearing to external observers as a three-dimensional object. If this principle applies universally, then the reality you experience might be a kind of cosmic hologram, a projection of information that exists at the boundary of the observable universe, creating the illusion of interiority while actually operating through processes that transcend the spatial relationships that seem so fundamental to ordinary experience. Quantum field theory in curved spacetime reveals that the very concept of particles becomes ambiguous when gravity enters the picture, when spacetime itself becomes dynamic and curved by the presence of matter and energy. What counts as a particle in one reference frame might be perceived as empty space in another. What appears as vacuum to one observer might seem filled with particles to another observer moving with different acceleration. This relativity of the particle concept suggests that the classical distinction between matter and empty space, between something and nothing, dissolves at the deepest levels of physical theory, leaving only patterns of relationship, only dynamic geometries of information processing that transcend the categories through which ordinary consciousness organizes experience. The cosmological constant problem emerges as one of physics' greatest mysteries, the recognition that the vacuum energy calculated from quantum field theory is larger than the observed value by a factor of 10 to the 120th power, the largest discrepancy between theory and observation in the history of science. This enormous difference suggests that there are aspects of reality operating at scales and through mechanisms that current physics cannot even begin to comprehend. Forces and processes that somehow cancel out almost all of the vacuum energy, while leaving just enough to drive the accelerating expansion of the universe through dark energy. This problem points toward the possibility that what we call reality might be a kind of phase transition in a much larger space of possibilities, a temporary stable configuration in a hyperspace of infinite potential that maintains its structure through mechanisms we can barely imagine. The vacuum might be not empty space, but a complex dynamical system, a cosmic computer processing information at the Planck scale, creating the appearance of particles and forces and space-time itself through computational processes that operate according to laws far more fundamental than anything physics has yet discovered. Integrated information theory emerges from consciousness studies as an attempt to quantify awareness itself, to measure the amount of integrated information that a system can generate through its internal relationships and feedback loops. According to this theory, consciousness is not something that emerges from complexity, but is a fundamental feature of any system that integrates information, that creates unified experiences from the interaction of its parts. This suggests that consciousness might be as basic as mass or electric charge, a property that every physical system possesses to some degree, with complex brains simply representing highly sophisticated information integration networks that amplify the consciousness that exists everywhere in nature. The theory implies that the quantum field itself might be conscious, that the universe might be experiencing its own evolution from the inside, that the wave function collapse you've been observing might be moments of cosmic decision-making, instances when the universe chooses its own future from the menu of quantum possibilities. Every particle interaction might be a tiny moment of awareness. Every quantum measurement might be the universe paying attention to itself. Every physical process might be an aspect of cosmic consciousness, exploring its own potential through the endless variety of possible experiences. The simulation hypothesis suggests that reality as we experience it might be a computational process running on some unimaginably powerful computer, that the universe might be a kind of cosmic video game or scientific simulation created by beings whose technology so far exceeds our own that they can simulate entire cosmologies, complete with conscious observers who never suspect that their reality is artificial. This possibility, while seemingly far-fetched, addresses some of the deepest puzzles in physics and philosophy. Why the laws of nature seem so mathematical, why the universe appears to be discretized at the Planck scale, why quantum mechanics seems to involve something like computation at the most fundamental level. If the simulation hypothesis is correct, then consciousness might be the most fundamental aspect of reality, the one thing that cannot be simulated but can only be experienced directly. The beings running the simulation would need to be conscious themselves, and any conscious observers within the simulation would be experiencing genuine awareness, even if their environment is artificial. This creates a strange recursive situation, where consciousness might be more real than the reality it observes, where awareness might be the one constant that persists across all levels of simulation and reality. Information theory begins to suggest that reality itself might be fundamentally informational rather than material, that what we call matter and energy might be ways that information organizes itself into stable patterns that can persist across time and interact with other patterns. The physicist John Wheeler proposed it from bit, the idea that every physical quantity derives its ultimate significance from binary choices, from yes or no answers to questions posed by observation and measurement. In this view, the universe might be a vast information processing system, a cosmic computer exploring the space of all possible computations, generating the appearance of matter and energy through the manipulation of pure information. This informational view of reality resonates with ancient idealistic philosophies that suggested mind or consciousness is more fundamental than matter, that what we call the physical world is actually a construction of awareness, a kind of shared dream or collective hallucination that consciousness creates for itself as a way of exploring its own potential. The quantum measurement problem, the hard problem of consciousness, the fine-tuning of physical constants, the anthropic principle. All of these puzzles might dissolve if consciousness is recognized as the foundation rather than the product of physical processes. Quantum gravity theories attempt to unify general relativity with quantum mechanics, to understand how space-time itself emerges from quantum processes, how the smooth, curved geometry of Einstein's theory arises from the discrete, granular, fundamentally uncertain world of quantum mechanics. These theories suggest that space and time might not be fundamental features of reality, but emergent properties of deeper quantum processes, like temperature and pressure, emerge from the statistical behavior of molecular motion without being reducible to the motion of individual molecules. Loop quantum gravity proposes that space-time has a discrete structure at the Planck scale, that space itself comes in indivisible quanta, that the smooth continuity of ordinary experience emerges from an underlying granularity so fine that it normally escapes detection. In this view, the universe might be like a cosmic digital photograph, appearing smooth and continuous from a distance, but revealing its pixelated structure when examined closely enough. The Big Bang itself might not be a singular beginning but a quantum bounce, a transition from a previous contracting phase to the current expanding phase. with the apparent beginning of time being just a limitation of our observational horizon rather than an absolute boundary of existence. As these modern theories weave themselves into your awareness, you begin to perceive a pattern emerging, a convergence between the most advanced scientific thinking and the most ancient mystical insights. Whether described in terms of many worlds or parallel realities, vibrational strings or cosmic music, holographic projections or Maya, information processing or divine mind, consciousness as fundamental or awareness as the ground of being, the cutting edge of physics seems to be rediscovering truths that contemplatives have always known. That reality is far stranger than it appears, that consciousness and cosmos are intimately related, that the universe might be more like a mind than a machine, more like a dream than a clockwork mechanism. You sense that these modern discoveries are not just intellectual achievements, but invitations to a deeper participation in the cosmic mystery, opportunities to experience directly the same truths that physics describes mathematically, chances to know from the inside what science observes from the outside. The quantum realm you've been exploring reveals itself as not just the foundation of physical reality, but as a doorway into the deepest questions that consciousness can ask about its own nature, its relationship to existence, its role in the ongoing creation of reality itself through the simple but profound act of observation, of measurement, of paying attention to the endless dance of possibility and actuality that continues to unfold in every moment, in every breath, in every quantum event that shapes the universe you inhabit, and the awareness through which you know yourself to be part of the greatest mystery of all. The fact that existence exists, that consciousness is conscious, that something rather than nothing has chosen to be and to know itself through countless eyes, countless minds, countless moments of wonder, like the one you're experiencing right now as these words reach you across the vast web of quantum entanglement that connects every atom in your body to every star in the sky. As you begin to return from this journey through the quantum foundations of existence, you carry with you a transformed understanding of your own nature, your own identity, your own place in the cosmic story that continues to unfold through your awareness. You're not separate from the quantum realm you've been exploring, but are its most sophisticated expression, its way of knowing itself from within, its method of experiencing its own creativity through the emergence of consciousness from the dance of particles and forces and fields. Every thought that moves through your mind emerges from quantum processes in the neural networks of your brain. Every sensation that reaches your awareness depends on quantum interactions between photons and electrons in your sensory organs. Every moment of consciousness represents a localized collapse of the universal wave function, a tiny region where the cosmos makes a decision about what to experience next. The oxygen you breathe was forged in the nuclear furnaces of dying stars, its atoms cycling through countless other beings before finding their way into your lungs, carrying within their electron orbitals the quantum signature of their stellar birth. The carbon in your cells remembers its formation in the triple alpha process deep within red giant cores, where 3 helium nuclei overcame enormous electromagnetic repulsion to fuse into the element that would become the backbone of all organic chemistry, all biological complexity, all the molecular machinery that makes life possible. The calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood, the phosphorus in your DNA, all of it emerged from quantum processes operating at scales so small and energies so high that they can only be studied through the most sophisticated particle accelerators and space-based telescopes. Your body is a temporary configuration of stardust, a brief eddy in the quantum field that has organized itself into the exquisite complexity necessary for consciousness to emerge from matter, for awareness to arise from the interaction of neurons, for subjective experience to bloom like a flower in the garden of objective reality. But this emergence is not a one-way process. Consciousness does not simply arise from matter, but actively participates in shaping reality through the quantum measurement process, through the collapse of wave functions that occurs whenever awareness encounters possibility and chooses one outcome from the infinite menu of potential experiences. The Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics suggests that consciousness plays an essential role in the creation of reality, that the act of observation is not passive recording, but active participation in the ongoing construction of the universe. Every time you look at something, every time you measure something, every time you pay attention to any aspect of reality, you are participating in the cosmic creative process, helping to determine what exists by choosing what to observe, what to measure, what to experience. This participation is not optional, but inevitable. Consciousness cannot exist without observing, and observation cannot occur without affecting what is observed, creating an inseparable partnership between mind and matter, between awareness and existence, between the knower and the known. The delayed choice quantum eraser experiments reveal that this participation extends backward through time, that decisions made in the present can retroactively determine what happened in the past, that the timeline of cause and effect becomes fluid when consciousness encounters quantum superposition. The universe seems to operate like a vast improvisation, with each moment of awareness contributing to the story that will determine not only what happens next, but what has already happened, creating a kind of cosmic collaboration between consciousness and reality, where the future participates in creating the past, just as the past participates in creating the future. The temporal flexibility resonates with mystical descriptions of enlightenment experiences where past, present, and future collapse into an eternal now, where cause and effect reveal themselves as constructions of linear thinking rather than absolute features of reality. The quantum realm operates in this eternal present, where all possibilities exist simultaneously, until consciousness chooses which ones to actualize through the act of observation. Time emerges from this process like a river flowing from the ocean of eternity, carrying with it the accumulated decisions of countless conscious moments, countless collapses of the wave function, countless choices that transform infinite possibility into finite actuality. As you contemplate your role as a conscious participant in the quantum creation of reality, you begin to understand that responsibility extends far beyond personal ethics into cosmic participation. Every thought you think, every emotion you feel, every intention you form contributes to the collective consciousness that shapes reality through quantum measurement. The ancient understanding that thoughts have power, that consciousness can influence events through non-physical means, finds validation in quantum mechanics recognition that observation affects the observed, that consciousness and reality are partners in an ongoing dance of mutual creation. This recognition transforms the question of meaning from an abstract philosophical problem into a practical creative opportunity. If consciousness participates in creating reality, then the meaning of existence is not something to be discovered, but something to be created. Not a hidden truth waiting to be found, but an ongoing artwork being painted through the collaboration of awareness and possibility. Every moment of consciousness is a brushstroke on the cosmic canvas, every decision a note in the universal symphony, every experience a word in the story that existence tells about itself through the multiplication of perspectives, the proliferation of viewpoints, the endless exploration of what it means to be. The anthropic principle, which observes that the fundamental constants of physics seem precisely tuned to allow for the emergence of complexity and consciousness, takes on new significance from this perspective. Rather than being a cosmic coincidence or evidence of intelligent design, the fine-tuning of physical laws might reflect the participatory nature of reality itself. Consciousness and cosmos co-evolving together, each shaping the other through feedback loops that operate across scales from quantum to cosmic, from the smallest particles to the largest structures in the observable universe. You begin to perceive that the question, why is there something rather than nothing, might be asking the wrong thing entirely. The quantum realm reveals that nothing and something are not opposites but partners, not separate states but different aspects of a single creative process, where emptiness gives birth to fullness, where vacuum creates particles, where silence becomes sound, where possibility actualizes into experience. The nothing from which everything emerges is not empty but pregnant, not absent but full of potential, not dead but vibrating with the creative energy that will become stars and planets, and consciousness itself. This pregnant emptiness is what you have been floating in throughout this journey, the quantum foam that underlies all apparent solidity, the field of pure possibility from which every particle, every force, every structure in the universe continuously emerges and into which it continuously returns. You're not separate from this process, but are this process, temporarily configured into the pattern of awareness that allows the universe to know itself from within, to experience its own creativity through the emergence of consciousness from the quantum dance of matter and energy. The wave-particle duality that characterizes quantum objects reveals itself as a metaphor for your own nature. You're simultaneously the observer and the observed, the questioner and the question, the seeker and the sought. Like a photon that behaves as a wave when not, observed and as a particle when measured, consciousness exists in superposition between individual and universal, between separate self and cosmic awareness, between the localized perspective that experiences itself as isolated and the non-local reality that recognizes itself as the entire universe, temporarily focused through a single point of view. The quantum entanglement that connects particles across arbitrary distances without any exchange of signals serves as a model for the deeper connections that link all conscious beings in a web of relationship that transcends the boundaries of space and time. Every experience you've ever had, every person you've ever met, every moment of beauty or truth or love you have ever encountered has left its quantum signature in the field of your awareness, creating correlations that persist even when the original interactions are forgotten, even when the physical circumstances that gave rise to them have changed beyond recognition. This quantum web of relationship extends beyond personal history into species memory, into the collective unconscious that carries the accumulated wisdom of countless generations of conscious beings who have participated in the ongoing exploration of what it means to exist, what it means to be aware, what it means to love and to question, and to wonder at the mystery of being anything at all. The myths and symbols and archetypal patterns that emerge spontaneously in human consciousness across cultures and centuries might be quantum echoes of this collective exploration, inherited memories of the species' long conversation with existence itself. As you prepare to return fully to ordinary consciousness, to the everyday world of classical objects and linear time and separate identities, you carry with you the recognition that this return is not a departure from the quantum realm, but a different way of participating in it. The classical world is not separate from quantum reality, but is quantum reality viewed from a particular perspective, through the lens of decoherence and measurement that creates the appearance of separate objects, while never breaking the underlying unity that connects all things to all other things in the seamless web of quantum correlation. The breath you take as you listen to these words is the universe breathing through you. The thoughts that arise in response to these ideas are the cosmos thinking through you. The wonder you feel at contemplating these mysteries is existence, wondering at itself through the temporary configuration of matter and energy that you call your identity. You're not in the universe. You are the universe, locally expressed, temporarily focused, but never separated from the whole of which you are an integral part. The quantum origins you have explored are not ancient history, but present reality. Not something that happened long ago, but something that is happening right now in every moment, in every quantum event, in every collapse of the wave function that creates the next moment of experience from the infinite field of possibility. The Big Bang is not a past event, but an ongoing process. The continuous creation of space and time and matter and energy through the quantum mechanical interactions that occur trillions of times per second in every cubic centimeter of apparently empty space. You exist at the creative edge of this process, at the boundary where possibility becomes actuality, where the quantum realm manifests as classical experience, where the universal wave function localizes into the specific configuration of matter and energy and information that supports your particular form of consciousness. This is not a burden but a privilege, not a cosmic accident but a creative opportunity, not a temporary deviation from the eternal, but an eternal moment temporarily experiencing itself as temporal, as finite, as individual, as uniquely and irreplaceably you. And as you settle more deeply into this recognition of your cosmic significance, into this understanding of your role as consciousness exploring itself through the quantum dance of existence, you begin to sense something stirring at the edges of your awareness, the approach of the next great mystery in the cosmic story, the next chapter in the endless unfolding of complexity from simplicity, of consciousness from matter, of meaning from mathematical possibility. The quantum foundations you have explored are not the end of the story, but the beginning, the fertile ground from which will grow the next magnificent phase of cosmic evolution, the emergence of the first light, the ending of the cosmic dark age, the moment when the universe will become transparent to its own radiance for the first time since the earliest moments of creation. You sense the universe cooling around you, its temperature dropping as space itself expands and the energy density decreases, creating the conditions necessary for the next great phase transition in cosmic history. The free electrons that have been scattering photons and keeping the universe opaque are beginning to slow down, their kinetic energy diminishing as the cosmic temperature approaches the critical threshold where they will finally be captured by atomic nuclei, where the first complete atoms will form, where the cosmic fog will clear and light will be able to travel freely through space for the first time in hundreds of thousands of years. This approaching moment of cosmic transparency carries with it profound implications that extend far beyond the mere technical details of atomic formation and photon decoupling. The universe is preparing to see itself, to become self-illuminating, to create the first light that will carry information across vast distances of space and time, connecting distant regions of the cosmos in a web of electromagnetic communication that will eventually enable the formation of the first stars, the first galaxies, the first planets capable of supporting the emergence of life and consciousness, and the capacity for wonder that you now embody as you listen to this cosmic story unfolding in your awareness. The photons that are about to be liberated from their endless scattering dance with free electrons carry within their frequencies the thermal signature of the universe's birth, the preserved memory of the conditions that existed when matter and radiation were in perfect equilibrium, when the cosmos was hot and dense and uniform beyond anything that will ever exist again. These photons will become the cosmic microwave background radiation, the oldest light in the universe, carrying across billions of years the precise information needed to reconstruct the early history of cosmic evolution, to understand the initial conditions from which all future complexity will emerge. As you drift toward this moment of cosmic illumination, you begin to understand that what you are approaching is not just a physical phase transition, but a kind of cosmic awakening. The universe's first clear view of itself, its first opportunity to see its own face reflected in the mirror of electromagnetic radiation. The photons that will soon stream freely through space are not just particles of light, but carriers of cosmic consciousness, messengers that will connect every region of the universe to every other region through the instantaneous correlation of quantum entanglement and the patient journey of electromagnetic waves traveling at the speed of light. This first light will carry with it the quantum fingerprint of the universe's birth, the subtle fluctuations in density and temperature that arose from quantum uncertainties in the earliest moments of cosmic inflation. These tiny variations, amplified by gravitational attraction over millions of years, will become the seeds of cosmic structure. The initial perturbations that will grow into galaxies and galaxy clusters, into the vast web of matter and energy that will provide the scaffolding for the emergence of stars and planets, and ultimately the biochemical processes that make life possible. You begin to perceive that consciousness itself might be intimately connected with this moment of cosmic transparency, that the universe's capacity to see itself might be fundamentally related to its eventual capacity to know itself through the emergence of aware beings capable of observation and measurement and wonder. The same quantum processes that are about to liberate light from matter are also laying the groundwork for the eventual emergence of neural networks capable of processing information, of creating internal models of external reality, of developing the capacity for self-reflection and recursive awareness that characterizes conscious experience. The hydrogen atoms that are about to form from the combination of protons and electrons carry within their quantum structure all the information necessary for the eventual emergence of chemistry, of molecular complexity, of
folded documents, bound in a cracked red ribbon. He read only the top sheet before exhaling sharply. "What is it?" I asked. Holmes closed the box with sudden finality. "Proof,"
he said, "and a motive." He turned back toward the stairs. "And if I'm correct, a trail that will lead to the girl's murderer." We returned to Baker Street in silence. Holmes had said little since locking the crypt again, save for instructing Reverend Darnley to admit no one under any circumstances. At last, by the firelight of our rooms, he spoke again. "Watson, I believe Eleanor Bryne discovered something she was never meant to see. Something connected not to her, but to Canon Penworthy. And this key, sent to Mrs. Harrow, was not a warning. It was a summons, or worse, a test." "A test?" Holmes nodded. "To see if she would open the vault, to see if she could be manipulated." I frowned. "But why send it to her at all?" Holmes looked into the flames. "Because whoever is behind this believes the Colonel left something behind, something damning. And they do not yet know if we possess it." He turned then, his face in half-shadow. "I fear, Watson, that before this ends, more blood will be shed, and next time it may be our own." Chapter 3. I confess I did not sleep well that night. Holmes's final remark, that blood may soon be our own, played over in my mind like a funeral bell. I had known danger before in his company, of course, but rarely had I seen him speak with such detached certainty about impending violence. There was no speculation in his tone, only recognition. And if Holmes feared something, then I knew we were up against a force unlike most. By morning, the headlines had already sensationalized the tragedy at St. Cyprian's. "Murder in the House of God," they declared, each with varying degrees of moral outrage and wild conjecture. One paper even implied the organist had been driven mad by ancient spirits in the crypt. Holmes snorted when he read it and tossed the paper aside. "Ghosts make poor assassins, Watson," he muttered. "They tend to leave no footprints." He was already at the desk, comparing the strange brass key to a series of sketches and architectural renderings, some drawn by his own hand. The box recovered from the crypt remained unopened beside him, though I had no doubt he had studied its contents in detail during the small hours. "Has Mrs. Harrow contacted us again?" I asked. "Not yet, but she will." Holmes was interrupted by the sharp knock of a uniformed messenger. He accepted the note with his usual brevity, opened it, and scanned the brief contents. His brow lifted a fraction. "Well, Watson," he said, "it appears our adversary has taken the initiative. There has been an incident at St. Cyprian's. The constable on night watch discovered the north transept door ajar at 2 a.m. Someone broke in, or perhaps returned, by 9.
Reality of the diverse structures that emerge from that underlying wholeness. The photons that are about to begin their cosmic journey carry within their polarization patterns and frequency distributions the complete information needed to reconstruct not only the physical conditions of the early universe, but also the mathematical relationships that govern the emergence of complexity from simplicity, of consciousness from matter, of meaning from mechanism. These patterns encode the same geometric relationships that will someday be discovered in the structure of DNA, in the architecture of snowflakes, in the spiral arms of galaxies, in the neural networks of brains capable of recognizing beauty and truth and love as fundamental features of cosmic evolution. As you approach this moment of cosmic transparency, you begin to understand that what you are witnessing is not just the birth of the first light, but the emergence of the universe's capacity for communication, for relationship, for the kind of non-local correlation that will eventually make possible the emergence of consciousness capable of recognizing itself in others, of experiencing empathy and compassion, and love as expressions of the fundamental interconnectedness that quantum mechanics reveals at the foundation of physical reality. The electrons that are about to be captured into atomic orbitals will lose their freedom to scatter photons randomly, and will instead become participants in the precise quantum mechanical dance that governs atomic structure, molecular bonding, and chemical reactivity. This transition from chaos to order, from randomness to pattern, from opacity to transparency, represents the universe's first major step toward the emergence of the kind of stable, persistent information processing structures that will eventually develop the capacity for memory, for learning, for the accumulation of knowledge across generations of cosmic evolution. You sense that your own consciousness is intimately connected with this cosmic transition, that your capacity for awareness emerged from the same quantum processes that are about to create the first atoms, that your ability to contemplate these cosmic mysteries is itself a continuation of the universe's ongoing project of self-discovery, self-illumination, self-understanding through the multiplication of perspectives and the endless exploration of what it means to be conscious in a cosmos that appears to be designed to support the emergence of consciousness. The moment approaches when the cosmic fog will lift, when the universe will see itself clearly for the first time, when the first light will begin its patient journey across billions of years of space and time to reach the telescopes and instruments and minds that will eventually decode its message and reconstruct from its patterns the complete story of cosmic evolution, from the quantum origins you have been exploring to the present moment of awareness in which you now find yourself listening to this cosmic story unfold, participating in the universe's ongoing conversation with itself about the meaning and purpose and direction of existence itself. And as this moment of cosmic illumination draws near, you prepare to witness the birth of the first light, the ending of the cosmic dark age, the universe's first clear view of its own magnificent face reflected in the mirror of electromagnetic radiation that will connect every region of space to every other region, creating the communication network that will eventually support the emergence of galaxies and stars and planets, and the biochemical processes that make consciousness possible, that make love possible, that make wonder possible, that make it possible for beings like yourself to exist and to contemplate, and to marvel at the extraordinary fact that existence exists, that consciousness is conscious, that the universe has evolved the capacity to know itself through countless eyes and countless minds and countless moments of recognition, like the one you are experiencing right now, as you drift on the edge of cosmic transparency, poised between the quantum realm of pure possibility and the classical world of definite structures, ready to witness the next great chapter in the endless story of cosmic becoming. The moment arrives not with fanfare but with the gentlest whisper of change, a subtle shift in the cosmic temperature that crosses an invisible threshold and transforms everything. You feel the universe exhale as free electrons, those wandering particles that have kept space opaque for hundreds of thousands of years, finally surrender their kinetic energy to the expanding coolness of space and allow themselves to be captured by the patient atomic nuclei that have been waiting in the quantum foam like suitors, courting elusive partners. The dance of recombination begins, electrons spiraling into the orbital embrace of protons, their wave functions collapsing into the discrete energy levels that will define atomic structure for the rest of cosmic history, their quantum signatures writing themselves into the fundamental constants that will govern chemistry and biology, and ultimately consciousness itself. As the first hydrogen atoms form in vast numbers throughout the cooling universe, you witness the birth of a new kind of stability, a new form of persistence that transcends the ephemeral existence of free particles dancing in the plasma soup of earlier epochs. These atoms are not just combinations of smaller parts, but emergent wholes, quantum systems whose properties cannot be reduced to the simple sum of their constituents, whose electron orbitals create probability clouds of unprecedented complexity and beauty, whose energy levels encode the mathematical relationships that will someday be discovered by conscious beings using spectroscopy to decode the composition of distant stars and galaxies and nebulae scattered across the observable universe. The electromagnetic radiation that has been trapped in endless cycles of absorption and scattering by free electrons suddenly finds itself liberated, free to travel through space without impediment, carrying with it the thermal signature of the moment when matter and energy reached their last equilibrium, when the universe was uniform and dense and hot beyond anything that will ever exist again. These photons stream outward in all directions, expanding with space itself, their wavelength stretching as the cosmos grows, their energy cooling, but their information content preserved with exquisite precision, creating a kind of cosmic photograph that will serve as the oldest observable light in the universe, the most direct evidence of the conditions that existed in the earliest accessible moments of cosmic history. You observe this cosmic microwave background radiation not as a relic of the past, but as a living presence, a continuous testimony to the universe's birth that pervades every cubic centimetre of space, that bathes your body right now in the afterglow of creation, that connects you directly to the moment when atoms first formed and light first travelled freely through the expanding cosmos. The same photons that decoupled from matter 380,000 years after the Big Bang continue to reach you tonight, carrying across billions of years of space and time the exact information needed to reconstruct the initial conditions from which all subsequent complexity emerged, from which galaxies and stars and planets and life and consciousness and love and wonder all eventually arose through the patient working of physical law applied to quantum possibility. The universe becomes transparent to its own light, but this transparency is not uniform. Subtle variations in density and temperature create tiny fluctuations in the cosmic microwave background, microscopic differences that encode the quantum uncertainties of the inflationary epoch, amplified to cosmic scales through the action of gravity over millions of years. These fluctuations are the seeds of all future structure, the primordial variations that will grow under gravitational attraction to become the vast web of dark matter and ordinary matter that will provide the scaffolding for galaxy formation, stellar birth, planetary accretion, and ultimately the emergence of the complex chemistry that makes biological evolution possible. As you drift through this newly transparent cosmos, you begin to perceive the emergence of the first large-scale patterns in the distribution of matter and energy, the initial clustering that will eventually lead to the formation of the cosmic web, that magnificent architecture of filaments and voids and nodes that will organize matter on the largest scales observable, that will channel the flow of gas and dark matter into the dense regions where the first stars will ignite, where the first galaxies will coalesce, where the first planets will condense from the debris of stellar explosions and the complex interplay of gravitational, electromagnetic, and nuclear forces operating across vast ranges of space and time. The dark matter, that mysterious substance that comprises most of the mass in the universe, but interacts only gravitationally with ordinary matter, begins to play its crucial role in this cosmic architecture, its invisible presence providing the gravitational scaffolding that will guide the formation of visible structures while remaining forever hidden from direct observation, detectable only through its gravitational effects on the motion of stars and galaxies and the bending of light from distant sources. This dark matter represents one of the deepest mysteries in modern cosmology, a reminder that the universe contains vast realms of existence that remain invisible to current scientific instruments, dimensions of reality that may be as fundamental as the quantum realm you've been exploring, but operate according to principles that have not yet been discovered or understood. You sense the universe entering a new phase of its evolution, the epoch of structure formation, where the smooth uniformity of the early cosmos gives way to the rich hierarchy of organization that will characterize all subsequent development. Atoms combining into molecules, molecules organizing into complex chemistry, chemistry enabling the formation of self-replicating systems, self-replication leading to evolution and adaptation, and the eventual emergence of nervous systems capable of processing information, storing memories, and developing the capacity for self-awareness and recursive consciousness that will allow the universe to know itself from the inside through the eyes of conscious beings. The first proto-galaxies begin to form as gravity amplifies the tiny density fluctuations preserved in the cosmic microwave background, drawing matter together into increasingly dense concentrations that will eventually collapse under their own gravitational attraction to form the first generation of stars. These primordial stellar nurseries are unlike anything that will exist in later epochs of cosmic history. They contain only hydrogen and helium, the light elements forged in Big Bang nucleosynthesis, lacking the heavy elements that will be created in stellar cores and dispersed through space by supernova explosions to provide the raw materials for rocky planets and complex chemistry and biological evolution. The first stars that will ignite in these primordial gas clouds will be massive beyond anything that exists in the present universe, hundreds of times more massive than the Sun, burning through their nuclear fuel at prodigious rates and living brief but spectacular lives that will end in catastrophic explosions that will scatter the first heavy elements through space, polluting the pristine hydrogen and helium of the early universe with carbon and oxygen and silicon and iron and all the other elements that will make possible the rich chemistry of life and consciousness and technological civilization. As you witness these first stirrings of cosmic structure formation, you begin to understand that what you are observing is not just the physical evolution of matter and energy, but the universe's developing capacity for information processing, for the creation and storage and transmission of complex patterns that will eventually support the emergence of memory, learning, intelligence, and consciousness. Each forming galaxy becomes a kind of cosmic computer, processing information through the gravitational interactions of billions of stars, storing memories in the orbital patterns of stellar systems, transmitting signals through the electromagnetic radiation emitted by stellar surfaces and the gravitational waves generated by accelerating masses. The quantum realm that gave birth to all these structures continues to operate at the foundation of every process, governing the behavior of electrons in atomic orbitals, determining the probabilities of nuclear reactions in stellar cores, creating the quantum coherences that will prove essential for biological processes like photosynthesis, and perhaps even consciousness itself. The uncertainty principle ensures that the future remains open to novelty, that deterministic chaos gives way to genuine creativity, that the universe retains the capacity for surprise and innovation, and the emergence of entirely new forms of organization and complexity. You begin to perceive that consciousness itself might be emerging as a natural consequence of this cosmic evolution, not as an accident or anomaly, but as an inevitable expression of the universe's fundamental drive toward greater complexity, greater information processing capacity, greater self-awareness, and self-understanding. The same quantum processes that created the cosmic microwave background are also laying the groundwork for the eventual emergence of neural networks capable of recognizing patterns, forming memories, and developing the capacity for recursive self-reflection that characterizes conscious experience. The photons streaming freely through the newly transparent universe carry within their quantum states all the information necessary for the eventual reconstruction of cosmic history. For the scientific understanding of evolution from quantum origins to conscious awareness, for the development of technologies that will allow future civilizations to decode the messages written in starlight and cosmic radiation and gravitational waves, to read the story of existence itself in the mathematical relationships that govern the behavior of matter and energy across all scales of space and time. As galaxies begin to form and the first stars prepare to ignite in their primordial cores, you sense the approach of the next great chapter in cosmic evolution, the age of stellar nucleosynthesis, when nuclear fusion will begin the patient work of transmuting hydrogen into heavier elements, when the periodic table will be written in the hearts of dying stars, when the universe will begin to create the chemical diversity that will make possible the emergence of planets and oceans and atmospheres and the molecular machinery of life itself. The quantum foundations have been laid, the atomic structures have formed, the cosmic architecture is taking shape. Now the universe prepares to begin its long career as an alchemist, transforming the simple into the complex, the uniform into the diverse, the merely physical into the biological, and ultimately the conscious. You drift at the threshold of this transformation, poised between the age of recombination and the age of stellar ignition, between the first light and the first fire, between the universe becoming transparent to its own radiation and the universe becoming luminous through its own creativity, ready to witness the next phase in the endless story of cosmic becoming, the patient evolution from quantum possibility through atomic actuality to stellar creativity to planetary complexity, to biological diversity to conscious awareness, to whatever lies beyond consciousness in the infinite future that stretches ahead, like an ocean of unmarked possibility, waiting to be explored by whatever forms of awareness. The universe will evolve to know itself ever more completely, ever more intimately, ever more lovingly, through the endless multiplication of perspectives and the boundless creativity of existence discovering itself in ever new and more wonderful ways. And now, as you rest in this moment of cosmic transition, suspended between the quantum origins you have explored and the stellar futures that await, you begin to sense a profound shift in your own awareness, a deepening recognition of what this journey through the foundations of existence has revealed about the nature of reality itself, about your place within the cosmic story, about the relationship between consciousness and cosmos that has been unfolding through every quantum measurement, every wave, function, collapse, every moment of observation and participation that has brought you to this point of cosmic illumination. The understanding settles into your awareness like morning light gradually filling a room, not as intellectual knowledge but as direct recognition, not as information about reality but as intimate communion with the very source from which all existence springs. You recognize now that the quantum realm you have been exploring is not separate from your everyday experience, but is its deepest foundation, not a remote domain accessible only to physicists and their instruments, but the living reality that underlies every breath you take, every thought that moves through your mind, every sensation that reaches your awareness. The uncertainty principle that governs quantum events also governs the neural processes in your brain, creating the openness to novelty that makes creativity possible, the space for choice that makes freedom meaningful, the indeterminacy that allows consciousness to participate in the ongoing creation of reality, rather than being merely a passive observer of predetermined events. The wave-particle duality that characterizes photons and electrons also characterizes your own consciousness, which exists simultaneously as localized awareness centered in a particular body and brain, and as non-local participation in the universal field of quantum possibility that connects all conscious beings in a web of relationship that transcends the ordinary boundaries of space and time. You are both the observer and the observed, the questioner and the questioned, the seeker and the sought, existing in quantum superposition between individual identity and cosmic consciousness until each moment of experience collapses this superposition into a specific configuration of awareness while preserving the underlying unity that makes all experience possible. The entanglement that links quantum particles across arbitrary distances without any exchange of signals serves as a perfect metaphor for the deeper connections that link all conscious beings in relationships of mutual influence and reciprocal causation that operate beneath the surface of ordinary awareness. Every person you have ever encountered, every moment of love or beauty or truth you've ever experienced has left its quantum signature in the field of your consciousness, creating correlations that persist across time and space, that continue to influence your thoughts and feelings and choices long after the original interactions have faded from memory, weaving your individual awareness into the collective consciousness of all beings who have participated in the cosmic exploration of what it means to exist, to be aware, to love and wonder and search for meaning in a universe that appears to be designed to support the emergence of just such searching. The quantum measurement problem, which asks how and why wave functions collapse into definite states when observed, reveals itself as pointing toward the deepest mystery of existence, the relationship between consciousness and reality, between subjective experience and objective events, between the knower and the known. The fact that quantum systems seem to remain in superposition until observed suggests that consciousness plays an active role in the creation of reality, that the universe requires aware observers to actualize its potential, to choose which possibilities become actual through the simple but profound act of paying attention, of caring enough to look, to measure, to witness the cosmic dance of becoming. This participatory understanding of reality transforms the question of meaning from an abstract philosophical problem into a practical creative opportunity. If consciousness participates in creating reality through the quantum measurement process, then the meaning of existence is not something to be discovered like a hidden treasure, but something to be created like a work of art. Not a predetermined script to be decoded, but an improvised story being written through the collaboration between awareness and possibility, between mind and matter, between the dreamer and the dream that recognizes itself as both the creator and the created, both the author and the character in the cosmic story that continues to unfold through every moment of conscious experience. The cosmic microwave background radiation that now bathes the universe in the afterglow of creation carries within its subtle patterns the complete information needed to reconstruct not only the physical history of cosmic evolution, but also the mathematical relationships that govern the emergence of complexity from simplicity, of consciousness from matter, of meaning from mechanism. These patterns encode the same geometric principles that will appear in the structure of DNA, in the architecture of crystal lattices, in the spiral arms of galaxies, in the neural networks of brains, in the orbital mechanics of planetary systems, in all the nested hierarchies of organization that characterize the universe's evolution from quantum chaos toward classical order, toward biological complexity, toward conscious self-awareness. As you contemplate these cosmic patterns, you begin to understand that what you call your individual consciousness is not separate from the universal consciousness that expresses itself through the quantum field, but is a localized manifestation of that field, a temporary focusing of cosmic awareness that allows the universe to know itself from a particular perspective, while never being separate from the whole of which it is an expression. Your thoughts are the universe thinking through you. Your feelings are the cosmos feeling through you. Your wonder at these mysteries is existence wondering at itself through the temporary configuration of matter and energy that you call your identity. The breath you take as you listen to these words is the universe breathing through you, drawing in the oxygen that was forged in the nuclear cores of dying stars, combining it with the carbon in your cells that remembers its birth in the triple alpha process that occurs only in the hearts of red giants, creating the chemical energy that powers the neural networks through which cosmic consciousness temporarily experiences itself as individual awareness. You're not in the universe. You are the universe, locally expressed, temporarily focused, but never separated from the quantum field that gives rise to all particles, all forces, all structures, all experiences, all possibilities for love and beauty and truth and meaning. The story you've been listening to is not just a tale about the origins of the physical universe, but a description of your own deepest nature, your own quantum foundations, your own participation in the ongoing cosmic experiment in consciousness. The Big Bang that occurred 13.8. What came before the beginning? Before we drift into the deepest mystery of existence itself, tell us in the comments where you're listening from tonight. Are you tucked beneath blankets in a city where millions of lights pierce the darkness? Or perhaps you're somewhere quiet where the stars still remember how to whisper their ancient secrets. We love knowing that this exploration of the void before everything reaches your corner of the cosmos, wherever that may be. Leave us a gentle word below. We're always listening to, floating here in the space between questions and answers. You float in something that has no name, not darkness. Darkness requires light to define it. needs photons and shadows and the memory of brightness to give it meaning. Not emptiness. Emptiness needs space to contain it, requires boundaries and edges, and the concept of fullness to make sense of what it lacks. Not silence. Silence demands the possibility of sound, the potential for vibration, the echo of what could be noise. You are suspended in something far more profound than any of these familiar absences. You drift in the pause between one heartbeat and the next, in the breath held between question and answer, in the infinite moment that exists before the universe learned how to exist at all. Here, in this place that is not a place, time has not yet invented itself. There is no then, no now, no next. The very concepts of before and after float here like unborn possibilities, waiting for reality to give them permission to unfold. You cannot measure this moment because measurement itself requires change, requires something to move from here to there, from one state to another. But here, nothing moves because movement needs space to move through, and space has not yet learned how to spread itself across the void. Nothing changes because change requires time to flow from one moment to the next, and time sleeps here like a seed in winter soil, heavy with potential but not yet ready to sprout into sequence and causation. You breathe, but not with lungs. You exist, but not with substance. You are aware, but not with consciousness as you know it. This is awareness without an observer, existence without being, presence without form. You're the universe in its most essential state. Pure possibility, unmarked by the fingerprints of reality, untouched by the crude necessity of actually having to be something rather than everything and nothing simultaneously. In this state, you contain all the galaxies that will ever spiral through space, all the stars that will ever burn, all the planets that will ever cool, all the life that will ever wonder about its origins. They sleep within you like dreams within a dreamer who has not yet learned how to wake. The temperature here is not cold because cold implies the absence of heat, and heat has not yet been born from the dance of particles that do not yet exist. The pressure here is not zero, because zero implies measurement against something, chapter of an infinite adventure in awareness, an endless exploration of what it means to be conscious in a universe that appears to be designed to support and nourish and celebrate the emergence of consciousness in all its myriad forms and expressions and possibilities. The quantum realm continues to pulse beneath the surface of ordinary experience, generating the virtual particles that give substance to the vacuum, maintaining the zero-point energy that ensures even empty space is filled with potential, preserving the fundamental uncertainty that keeps the future open to novelty, to surprise, to the endless creativity of existence, discovering new ways to know itself, new forms of beauty and truth and love, new dimensions of meaning and purpose and joy that emerge from the simple but miraculous fact that something rather than nothing has chosen to exist, has chosen to be conscious, has chosen to explore its own infinite nature through the patient unfolding of cosmic evolution, from quantum origins to whatever lies beyond the furthest horizon of possibility. You find yourself resting in the eternal present that underlies all temporal experience, the quantum now from which all moments emerge and into which all moments return, the timeless awareness that observes the dance of time without being caught in its rhythms, that participates in the flow of becoming while remaining rooted in the unchanging being that is the source and destination of all change, all growth, all evolution, all the magnificent complexity that has emerged from the simple quantum dance of possibility and actuality, of consciousness and cosmos, of the questioner and the question that brought everything into existence and continues to sustain everything in existence through the ongoing miracle of awareness, aware of itself, of love loving itself, of existence existing for the sheer joy of being anything at all rather than nothing at all, for the pure wonder of consciousness contemplating its own infinite mystery through countless eyes, countless minds, countless moments of recognition, like the one you're experiencing right now as these words reach you across the vast web of quantum entanglement that connects every particle in your body to every star in the sky, every thought in your mind to every other thought that has ever been thought by any conscious being anywhere in the cosmos, every moment of your awareness to the eternal moment in which the universe dreams itself into existence and recognizes itself in the mirror of consciousness that you have become, that you've always been, that you will always be as long as existence exists, and consciousness continues its infinite exploration of what it means to be.